October 4th, 2021, the day that Facebook disappeared off the internet. So I wanted to make a quick video just documenting some of the aspects of this outage because there's some crazy things that are contributing to this, and it's kind of cool. So what even is happening with Facebook? Well, we can see that just by going to facebook.com, and we get nothing except for this message that says we can't connect to the server at facebook.com. How can something like this happen? Well, when you type in a website such as facebook.com, google.com, etc., the first step that usually has to happen is it has to go through a service called DNS. And what DNS does is takes that website name and translates it to an IP address, because that's what computers usually can recognize and get you to the website you want. So I have my command line window up here. I can use a little tool to say, hey, what is the IP address for facebook.com? And this could vary depending on your location, since Facebook is a global service. Let's ask what the IP address is. We get nothing. We can compare that to Google, and we see an IP address, but nothing for Facebook. So with DNS, there are many servers across the world that are doing the duty of translating names to IP addresses. Your internet service provider is doing it. Google has servers that you can use for it. There's other companies such as Cloudflare as well. And they all share these DNS records with each other, so that way, no matter who you're asking, you can always find out where facebook.com is coming from. But who's the one that says what IP addresses are associated with Facebook? Well, none other than Facebook. So we can also take a look and say what servers are providing IP addresses of facebook.com. And here we have a few of them. We got the nameserver.facebook.com. We can see we have A, B, C, D. We can go into a little bit more detail as well. And we can see now we have the IP addresses of those servers themselves. And actually, I want to dig a little bit into C and D, because those seem to be having a major factor in this outage. Now we're going to talk about routing on the internet. So the internet is one big superhighway of many roads, highways, interstates that will get you where you need to go. When you have a destination, there's usually signs that will get you to these said highways, interstates. The internet is the same way. So if you're an internet service provider or a big company like Facebook, and you own IP addresses, basically what you do is you want to announce them to the world and say, hey, these IPs are located here. And that information is going to propagate to all the other internet service providers of the world. And that in turn, they're going to use that to figure out a best path to that said destination. The tool I'm going to use is RouteViews, which is a project from the University of Oregon. And basically you can log into their router and see what path it takes to get to an IP address or address is on the internet. Let's go ahead and log in to one of the RouteViews routers. And then just for a comparison, let's view a route to something that is not Facebook. So let's go ahead and take 8.8.8.8, which is Google's DNS server. And so what we get at the top here, we get the number of paths that this router can take to get to that IP. We have 21 paths. Down here are some IPs. And these are just routers that this router is connected to, and it can go through any of these to get where it needs to go. Now, as I said earlier, I want to look at the name server IPs of Facebook, primarily C and D. So if we plug in C's IP, let's see what routes it has to get to that. We get 1, but we also have this RIB failure on the end. And the simplest explanation of that message is basically it was actually unable to get a route for this IP. Because keep in mind, Facebook has to be the one to announce how to get there. So, and we can look at D. And yeah, just nothing there. A lot of reports about this outage are simply just pointing to DNS, which, as we saw, is definitely been a major factor of this outage. Here I'm looking at this CNN article. Reason for this outage, not clear, but security experts are pointing to a DNS problem, which is only part of the truth. Sure, there can be DNS issues, and we have certainly seen many of them, but the fact that some of Facebook's DNS servers, basically their routes to it, were basically pulled from the internet. Like, I feel bad for Facebook, man. I hope they can recover, because routing changes on the internet can definitely go crazy. You make one little mistake and accidentally pull your routes, then no one's going to be able to get to you. That's it for this video. Again, I just find it really interesting about how these sort of outages can happen. I'm sure we'll see Facebook make a recovery. I'd like to see an analysis from them on exactly what went down, but knowing Facebook, I'm kind of doubtful. But hope you found this interesting as well, and thank you for watching.